And once I peed my pants, I was pretty sure I wasn't getting that position. But,
Oh,
was still waiting for the callback.
You're listening to Rated R Rex. Your dose for the day.
But anyway, we're talking about school, residency, jobs, how to crush your pharmacy interviews. I am Sam here with the Rated RX podcast with Robbie and Xavier. Say hello, guys.
hello.
Yo, how's it going?
We are looking to do a little weekly weigh-in on some stuff about interviews, being nervous, sweating, all the little tics, scared things, vomiting in the corner. I remember doing an OSCE and being sick and asking them to like pull the trash can over. And they're like, we can reschedule this. We can reschedule this another time. It's like, I'm just probably going to be sick for like 3 days. Like this is the end of the quarter. Let's just do this. And I was able to get through, but like I literally asked them, it's like, I'm going to take this trash can, take the lid off, and I'm going to set it next to me while we do our little mock patient interview.
I'm glad you made it.
I did. I passed it. Passed that OSCE. We're good to go. All right. So we had a listener send a message in. She is a graduated pharmacy student and now looking for jobs. She's talking about how nervous she gets, nervous about her pharmacy interviews, starting there, going through school. In her question here, I tend to get very nervous when interviewing and have a lot of anxiety for some interviews coming up, looking for a job. What's the best way to show people skills in an interview when you're nervous? And she adds that she feels like she's making it worse by saying every 5 seconds when she's nervous. That's kind of her nervous tick of start dropping ums every few seconds when she starts getting nervous. So let's kind of start by addressing this as what do we think people skills are in an interview and how we would show that, or a candidate would show that to you guys. Any thoughts on that to kind of lay it out for her here?
I think a lot of it is just showing your interest in the other person. A lot of older people have kids, and you could simply ask, do you have any kids? Oh, boy, girl, tell me about them. And just showing that you're interested in them, interested in their life, kind of signals to them that you are an easy, nice person to get along with. And so as far as people skills go, just be curious about the other person. Ever ask anything a little too serious, like, oh yeah, so you ever fail a class? Things like that. But yeah, just be personable, ask curious questions. I think people want to talk about themselves if you give them the opportunity. So just give them the opportunity to talk about themselves.
Robbie loves that.
Oh
It's true.
yeah. So yeah, I definitely agree with that, Robbie. Like a lot of times beforehand, what I used to do is try to do a little research on who my interviewer is and see what connections I can find between us. And that will give me, a talking point to bring up at the beginning to kind of like, bring out make them relax a little bit, help me relax a little bit, and try to find common ground and just start a little conversation. Another thing you can do is look around the room, see what you see, a crate and pen, a little picture of a puppy, just kind of bring that up. And initially just to kind of get them to open up and relax a little bit, because when they get to talking about themselves, they'll relax and they'll help you to relax when you see them smiling and talking about something that they're happy about. So definitely do that. And as far as the part and the listening, the part that she gets nervous. She says a lot. What I've learned is okay to have a little bit of silence in between, or like when you're in your room, just like silence in between. It feels like it's a long time, like when you're thinking about what you want to say and you're silent for, 10 seconds, 15 seconds, 20 seconds, a minute. It does feel like a long time and like you're not thinking fast enough, but it's honestly not that long. So it's okay to have a little bit of silence in between when they ask the question and when you formulate their answer. It just shows that, you're actually thinking of a good answer for them.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with a powerful silence. You're definitely right about that.
Mm-hmm. And breathe, just breathe.
Yeah, that'll work great. You'll get the job for sure.
In your nose, out your
That's
mouth.
that psych. Those are psych positions that needs to breathe for. But I do know when I just the ums and the likes and the tapping, that I have gotten worse at it over time. But it has more to do with typing scripts or writing down scripts when people call in. And I noticed that, you start asking through things, okay, who's the name, whatever, and transcribing something. And if you don't keep saying something or have that silence for too long, they just keep going while you're writing or transcribing. So like I'm trying to write out this SIG that they're doing and I don't say anything while I'm typing it. And then they just start going for refills and then doctor and things. And so like as you're getting halfway through or toward the end, I'm like, and then what's their phone number? And like trying to drag out to like fill that space. Because if I don't, like they just keep like after a few seconds, they'll just start going and keep going. It's like, no, I'm still writing.
I'm still
So like
writing.
trying to
You're-
say that or try to like speak out loud as like I'm writing the SIG or I'm writing their clinic name and say it as I'm typing it just to like fill that gap. Because if it gets too long, they just keep going. It's uncomfortable, I assume. But I agree, though, the interview part of it being important to not just, what's your greatest strength? Or do you think you're a strong pharmacist? And you just immediately go, yes, I'm a strong pharmacist at this. But like actually having that pause of like, yeah, I think I am a
Yes.
strong pharmacist and doing this and that part thing. But it's like just snapping those things. It's like, yeah, okay, you didn't really think of my question or not really, talking to me. You're just potentially reading off a list in your head of your responses for things.
Yeah. But I mean, piggybacking off that, practice I think helps a lot with interviewing. Just find as many questions as you can for your job. Just look for okay, most common interview questions for this position, right? Like find as many as you can. Also talk to people who had that job or who know somebody who's in a similar field and ask them what type of questions they would ask or have been asked. Kind of go through that, compile that list, and then just practice over and over. No, you won't know every question that they're gonna ask you, and that's when you can and pause a little bit longer. But the most common ones, the more you practice, the more you do it, the more calm and less nervous that you'll feel. And so that's a big thing. You really just gotta put in the work and practice. Practice with different family members, practice with friends, practice with your animals, talk to yourself, practice over and over. And then when you get an interview, it'll just feel natural to you.
Yeah, and I want to add that for me, when I say it's usually because I am not thinking about what I'm saying and I'm just sort of blurting and speaking in autopilot. And I will pause and go because my lips are trying to catch up to my thought process here. So take your time, think about what you want to say. And I think the ums will just naturally sort of phase themselves out. Don't just speak and blurt things out. And I know I tend to do that on this podcast, but I would
We all
dare
do.
not do that on an interview.
Okay, good advice. Good advice. And then things like, you know, don't just think clinically of the, they've probably got your, resume there, read it before. As Robbie said before, was never handful of jobs, never been asked about his GPA. You're already at this spot, you've graduated. They're not too concerned with your pure clinical knowledge. They want to know, can you communicate? Do you have empathy? They're going to ask you questions that, yeah, you're not going to straight be able to prepare for, like Xavier's saying, and know everything. But, tell me about a situation like this. What is your favorite thing about pharmacy? It's going to be something that is going to make you think probably. It's not going to be, it's going to make you nervous, if you're already nervous, because you're not going to know the answer. You're not going to have that pre-prepared answer or response. But having, as Xavier's saying, some practice on kind of empathy questions, teamwork questions, broad things that you can draw back, and then be able to have specific stories or instances. What's your favorite thing in pharmacy? And like, oh, I like my coworkers, or something like that. Or I like helping patients. While also being able to say, I like helping patients. This one time, there's this patient came in, and be able to go into a story or have that available. So having a few examples that you are able to show those people skills. So, being worried that you can't just demonstrate people skills talking back and forth. Well, how do you demonstrate? You tell them a story about something that you did demonstrating those people skills. Zay, you got all excited on something there.
Yeah,
What was
I
that?
got a pro tip that I learned from when I was going through interview processes. But this is more for the students who are going through different rotations and stuff right now. When you have a specific situation, or let's say, you had an intervention that you made, or you had a conflict with the provider, write what happened down. so you can remember it. Because like trying to think back at the end of your 4th year before interviews of all the interactions that you had, you're not going to remember it, or you only remember bits and pieces of it. So it's important to like keep a little notebook whenever you have a little interaction, or like, you did something great or you did something bad. What did you do after? How do you recover from that? Write it all down. And then when it's interview season, then you can kind of read it back, some of those things that you did. And that will definitely kind of help with your storytelling part of for the questions.
Keep a burn book. All right. And then the nervous tics, the one other thing that I wanted to say was, you're not going to stop it. You're not going to be perfect. So, don't try to be, but you can try to guide that a little bit. So, if you're a leg tapper, hand tapper, likes, whatever it is, you keep doing the trying to maybe intentionally do something like you're placing your hand on your leg and intentionally moving or intentionally rubbing a finger or doing something that allows kind of that tick to happen, but you're trying to uh, do it a specific way or control it, or instead of you're concerned with your verbal and the clock and this question and being able to try to translate that into something else that maybe you're more comfortable with, makes you feel less anxious if you're doing that instead of what you've already got in your head as I'm going to say over and over and I'm going to bomb this interview, that you can help yourself a little bit by trying to focus that somewhere else.
Great advice.
So then a little fun question on the interviewing things here. What's worse for someone coming in, interviewing with you guys, talking too much in an interview or giving one-word answers out of fear?
I think they're both equally bad. Like you have one person come in and just like talking your ear off, like, "Hey, we asked one question and we run out of time." Like you told us your whole life story, and then the other person come in and they get scared and yell, "Pharmacist! I want to be a pharmacist!" And like, okay, I think they're both pretty bad. I don't know if I can pick one over the other.
I think shorter answers bother me more, just the one-word answers. With the long answers, I don't mind it so long as you're answering the question and not just talking yourself in a circle in a tangent.
Just not having your hat on, as long as they're not having their little tinfoil hat.
As long as the tinfoil, not on the interview. Don't have your tinfoil hat on in the interview. But as long as you're answering the question, I think that's okay. And a good interviewer will sort of know when to interject and direct you to the next question. So I wouldn't worry so much about that, but definitely focus on answering the question itself, because if you don't do that, then you just wasted everybody's time.
Yeah, I think the longer's the better, because again, what we were talking about, circling back to the people skills, like if you're just given short answers, you're not able to show any of that aspect of you that you might want to show off, or you feel you're strong at your communications, your teamwork, your empathy. If you're just given one word answers, short answers, tell us about an example of you being empathetic or how you interacted. Do you think your patients like interacting with you, and are you kind? And you're just like, yeah, I am. I'm kind, and like that's your whole answer. That's not going to give the company any feeling or any belief that is true. Maybe not that you're just a liar, you're just lying about it, but they're not going to have any confidence in these verse you going off on all these tangents. Yeah, maybe it's you're answering these weird specific situations that don't really apply and going off, but it at least gives them more to go off of, which again probably comes back to the question itself of, I was like, I'm going to say the wrong thing and it's going to crash and burn. I'm going to talk about this weird thing because I know I talk too much, so I better shut up. So you can dial that back a little bit, be conscious of it. Again, that's where Xavier's talking about practicing. Record yourself, listen to yourself, say, yeah, I was saying a lot of ums, or yeah, I am improving on that, or man, what, I was just rambling over here. Listening to yourself can be helpful for that, but I would say definitely trying to be a little more wordy, show yourself off a little bit more than just those one word answers.
You just jogged my memory of something too. I knew a pharmacist who, when she would apply for jobs, she would actually record herself during the interview. And I thought that was such a strange thing, but she's told me she would watch it replay it, like online stuff, obviously, not like in person, but she'd replay it and she would kind of get a sense on like where things took a turn. Maybe she said something that was wrong. That's something you could try. I would maybe clarify, look at their interview rules to see if that's something you can do first, because I could see that also going very poorly for you if they find out you're recording the interview and having access to these questions. But it's something, I mean, if it's okay, it's something worth trying. So then you could film yourself, watch yourself, and figure out what you did wrong. Maybe rehearse questions that gave you a little stumble. So always an option to try.
One thing just to note that also came to mind as you're saying that, but realizing some are very professional in their interviews. Some are, older companies that might not be up to date on HR things, where it's quite possible you could get, an illegal question that's asked of you about, pushing into medical history or family history, or do you smoke, or whatever it might be, that technically they're not allowed to ask if you don't bring it up or don't expand into that. So I bet you could probably Google it as well, common things that could be illegal questions or fringe questions, to where that would be a good thing to practice, to know. It's like, hey, how do I want to respond if they ask me about my medical history, or do I have kids, or things, if that's something you don't want to share, because they're not allowed to ask that, and to be, not judgmental on their candidate. And so, are you going to put up that boundary when they ask that question? And how are you going to respond? It's like, oh, I don't want to talk about that. Or it's like, oh, I don't think we should talk about family. Or same thing what Robbie said. It's like, oh, do you have kids? Yeah, I have a kid. There's that aspect of, do you want to share this piece of information, or do you feel that it's detrimental, or they shouldn't be addressing that or factoring that into their decision as you are interviewing for this job. So thinking of those things ahead of time, being prepared for questions you don't want to answer or shouldn't be asked, or ones that you're fine with if you want to talk about kids and family and smoking and whatever else, religion, Republican, Democrat, just be aware that though they could come up. They're not supposed to ask certain things, but I've heard them. I've sat next to people that did phone interviews and they ask those questions, and people answer them and do different things, but just be aware that could happen.
What's one question you wish you could ask? A fun question, not about personal life, but if you could ask just any random question. My favorite's always, if you were a drug, what would you be? So what kind of drug would you be?
Me? I'll be
Both of you.
something. I'll probably be caffeine.
Oh, that's my answer.
Oh, that's yours too.
That's my answer is caffeine, because it's
a great one.
I'm a foundation. I'm there when you need me, and when I am not there, you notice real hard and you get a headache. So you need me around. I'm a backbone to your day.
My reason is just because I'm a fun person and I'll have you bouncing off the walls.
That works too.
Yours sound better though. I'll use yours for the interview.
Feel free to borrow that from me. Just make sure you give me credit. Yeah.
Okay.
I got you. My good friend Robbie.
Can you just be like dopamine? I just want to be dopamine. How about that? Does that count as a drug?
Dope.
It's I mean maybe
That should count. That should count.
Maybe.
All right. Well, thank you, gentlemen, for helping in this weekly weigh-in. Hopefully, our listener gets a few tips and tricks out of there. Again, we appreciate any questions you guys send in. Please like and subscribe, follow us, send in those questions. We'd love to interact with you, both through our website, YouTube, TikToks, Instagram, whatever you want to listen to and see us through. We're there for you. This is the Rated RX podcast. Peace out.
Rated RX, you do